So now that we have the passport Facebook strategy in place, we'll go into the routes.js, and I'm going to create two routes here. The first one being router.get /auth/Facebook, and we're going to pass in the passport.authenticate method with the value set to Facebook. Now this route will be used by our login with Facebook button, which we have on the index page, and we're going to simply set the hyperlink here to /auth/Facebook. So when a user clicks on the login with Facebook button on the main page, this route is activated and it takes the user to Facebook to log in and authorize access to the app. Once Facebook has successfully authorized the user, it returns access back to ChatCat via the callback URL which we had set earlier. So let's create that route as well. So we're going to do a router.get, and we'll set this to /auth/Facebook/callback, and we will pass in passport.authenticate with the Facebook option, and we're going to set a success redirect to the chat rooms route. So if the authorization is successful, then the control is redirected to the chat rooms route. If not, then we simply get redirected to the login page once again. Now you could have a specific route created to show an error page, to show a message to the user. In this case, we're just redirecting the user back to the login page. So once this is created, the next thing that we will do is we will go to our chat rooms route, and we're going to pass in a user attribute, and we're going to set this to request.user. So once the authorization is successful and we are redirected to the chat rooms route, our request object now contains the user profile, and this user profile contains our profile pic, contains the full name, and contains the Facebook user ID. We are passing this data to the chat rooms page because we can then display the profile pic over here by simply mentioning user.profilepic using the Hogan mustache syntax, and the user's name could be displayed by saying user.fullname. Alright, so that's how you will display the active user's profile pic and the full name. Alright, so once we have this thing done, we'll go back to the routes.js. Now we are accessing the passport object, and since this is an external module, what we're going to do is we're going to pass in reference to the passport within our app.js, so that the passport objects and the passport middleware can be accessed within the routes.js. One last thing, we will invoke the passport.initialize and the passport.session to get our passport active and working. So let us try this out. I'll go to the terminal and I'll type node app.js. Let's go to localhost :3000, and we will click on the login with Facebook button, and you can see that the Facebook login screen appears. Type in your username and password and click on login. When you click on login, the access is redirected back to ChatCat, and you can see that the active profile pic and the profile name fields are now populated with the user profile. So as you can see, once we perform the login, the data is stored in the session and the control is redirected to the chat rooms page. Now we still have one tiny issue with the way the route is being handled, and that issue is that, let's say I were to restart the app Now obviously when you restart the app, all the session variables are destroyed. So if I try and refresh the chat rooms page, obviously the profile pic and the username variables do not exist. So essentially what should happen is that if I try and access a secure page in the event that the session variables do not exist or have expired, I should be automatically redirected to the login page. And these pages, which are the internal pages of the app, should not be accessed at all. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to write a tiny middleware of our own. So remember, middleware is nothing more than a function. So what we're going to do is we're going to define a middleware by declaring a function called secure pages, and we will pass in 3 arguments: request, response, and next. And what we're going to do in this function is we are checking if request.isAuthenticated exists, then simply pass on access to the next route, else redirect to the login page. So once we have created this middleware, I am just going to go to the chat rooms page, and between the route and the callback function, we will mention secure pages followed by a comma. This way, when we run our app and we try and access a secure page, for example, let's try and access the chat rooms route in the absence of the session variables, the control returns automatically back to the login page. But once you're logged in, so let's click on the login button, and once we are logged in, you can easily go to the chat rooms page, and you can see that the control does not go anywhere else and it stays on the chat rooms page, because now we have an active session which contains the user profile. But let's try and once again shut down our app, effectively destroying the session variables, and let's restart. And now we'll just refresh this page, and you'll see that it automatically logs you out to the login page. So this way, the secure pages middleware effectively limits access to our inner pages based on an active login. So I'll click on the login with Facebook button once again. Now we will also activate the logout button that you see over here. So I'm going to go back into the routes.js, and we will also create router.get/logout request response next, and we are just going to say request.logout and response.redirect to the login page once again. Let's also get rid of our set color and get color, because we were just using this to try out the sessions. These are not actively required inside our app. So what we have done in this video is we have effectively set up 2 routes. The first route /auth/Facebook is used by the login with Facebook button to redirect to the Facebook login page, and once the user logs into Facebook and authorizes access to the app, Facebook returns access to our app via the callback URL. And if the login is successful, if the authorization is successful, we are redirected to the chat rooms page. Within the chat rooms page, we have a new request.user object which we are passing into the page so that the user profile pic and the username can be displayed on the page. And also we have created our own middleware which checks to see if the isAuthenticated property exists or not. So when Passport successfully authorizes a user, the isAuthenticated property is available and is set to true. If this property exists, then we are continuing on with the route and we will render the page, or else we are redirected out to the login page. And by passing in this middleware within the chat rooms route, we can ensure that the chat rooms route is not accessed directly if the session does not exist. Within our app.js, we have used the passport.initialize and the passport.session to get passport active and working. And within our chat rooms page, we have the user.profilepic and the user.fullname being displayed here. So just one last thing now is the logout route which we've just created. So I'm just going to say /logout, and that's it. So let's just go and restart the app once again. So let me just show you the login process once again. So I'm just going to refresh and you'll see that it goes out to the login page. So we'll click on login with Facebook. I am already logged in with Facebook, and I get to the chat rooms page, and if I click on logout, then I'm logged out and I'm on the login page once again. So once we process the request.logout, the session variables are destroyed, and if you now try and access the chat rooms route, you will see that you are automatically redirected back to the login page.